Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliette Clark. And today we have a really great guest that I hope will convince you maybe this isn't the right time for a book. And I know you're probably thinking, wait, you're a publisher. You're supposed to be pushing me to do this. But we all want you to do it at the right time in your business process. So Samantha Riley is a business growth strategist with 30 years plus experience helping established service providers scale to seven figures on their own terms. As the creator of the Aligned Scale Method, that is trademark, and the host of the Business Growth Lab podcast, she helps founders stop being the bottleneck and start being their building for freedom. So actually building that business around your lifestyle, around being able to manage it in a way that gives a little balance to it. And if there are those of you out there who've built a business and you realize you're working a lot, it's because that's what we do before we start scaling. So stay tuned for our interview with Samantha. Welcome back, Samantha. It's so great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm very excited to have you because you and I talked a couple of weeks ago for an hour. We're only supposed to be 10 minutes, guys, but we ended up like an hour. I want you to share so much because I shared a story about someone who didn't even have a business set up and I was just devastated. So let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Building and growing businesses for decades now. How did you first get into the world of coaching and scaling?
Super interesting. So it's not something that I found, it found me. And I think that this is a story of so many business owners. I think you've got a similar experience. But I've been in business since the very early 90s. I had two little toddlers at home and I was working corporate at the time and just it wasn't doing it for me. So I opened up my first business. And that first business was in the dance industry. I had a dance studio. Within 12 months, I opened dancewear retail stores. And I was in that industry for 20 years, which point I did a little pivot. I went into personal training and health and wellness. And one of the parts of my business was running retreats. And they were retreats on wellness, which included mindset and really creating a life that you really wanted. Because let's face it, if we're in a life that we hate, it's very hard to be healthy. Our life, it's an ecosystem, right? And one of the questions that came up time and time again is, I actually hate my job. How do you start a business? And I just started mentoring people. And it got to the point where I almost had more business clients than I did health and wellness clients. And I said to my coach at the time, I'm like, what should I do with this? And he kind of looked at me like I had three heads and went, isn't it obvious? And it's so bizarre because it wasn't obvious to me. But as soon as he said that, I felt like a little bit silly and went, oh, yeah, okay, let's do that. And that's how I started coaching people. And I'm so glad that it found me. And, it's the way the universe works because I actually love business. I love the business behind the business. I love building business. I love starting business. I love talking business. I could talk about business for 3 weeks without taking a breath with marbles in my mouth. Love everything about it. So started coaching back in 2011 and have been doing it ever since.
Yeah. You said something really cool there. And by the way, fitness is a very hard industry to get ahead in because it's very competitive. So I can imagine you're really good at it if you were that good in a competitive industry like that. You said that about loving your job. And I find that that is the best part of coaching because I can choose my own hours. I get to spend, I golf every Friday. So it's one of those things where you really do have to think about how do I really want that? And that has to be one of the first things. What is that lifestyle you want to create? Because when I first started, I worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, by the fourth month, you're just burned out.
Yeah, totally. And this is such an interesting conversation because that is one of the very first pieces that I get people to do is like, what's your life look like? Why do I do that? Because I've lived the opposite. I was the 12-hour-a-day girl that worked 7 days a week. I was just creating some content yesterday, and I remembered back to the moment my very first coach said to me, so I'm looking at your calendar here. He's like, I'm a little bit confused. Where's the you time and where's the hobbies? And I went, what me time and what hobbies? Like, they're not there because I don't have either of them. And that's when he said to me, unless you do something different, like you're not going to be able to. I'd been doing it like this for 20 years or 15 years at that time. I had 3 children. I was pretty burned out, but I was actually blind to it because I'm such an ambitious person that I hadn't actually realized how run down I'd got because it felt normal. Mm-hmm. People talk about, burnout. I actually hadn't realized that I was that exhausted because to me it was just normal. So my story is a little bit different to the way people normally talk about that. But yeah, once I realized how different your business is when you look after yourself first, then everything changed. That's how I grew my business really quickly. That's why the very first thing I ask my clients is, what do you want your life to look like? And then to create it around that. Does that mean that you don't ever have times that you hustle in your business? I don't think so, because if you have, there's something, a launch or a funnel that you're trying to get set up in a hurry or an event, there are times where you have to work a little bit harder. But generally in the day-to-day, everything can be created around how you want it. And, to your Friday golf, we look after when I say we, me and my husband, look after our grandson every Friday. Do I work Friday? Grandson, number one priority, because I would rather watch Play School and sing nursery rhymes with him than anything else in the business, because that's everything for me. If we had to look after him on a different day, we would move things around. But if we didn't have our business set up correctly from the beginning, if we didn't have the foundations there, we wouldn't be able to do that.
That's so funny. That's my every Wednesday afternoon is my grandson.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't it the best?
Yes, because you can give them back when you're done.
I know. And you can spoil them without thinking, oh, he's going to be naughty later on.
No. I just got in trouble for spoiling. I was literally, my daughter was literally like, no more toys, Mom, none. And she was mad at me. Like,
nah, sorry. This nanny will just, there's toys every week.
I know. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
So people often distinguish between growing and scaling a business. How do you define the difference, especially with coaches? Because I talk to coaches that have been in business maybe 6 months and they're like, well, I'm ready to scale. And it's like, you barely have a business.
Absolutely. Funny you should say that, because I was at a dinner a couple of years ago and there was someone that was telling me that she was just starting her business, and I was like, this is great. Congratulations. I'm so excited. And she went, yeah, I was looking at a whole heap of coaches, but they weren't right for me. I was looking for a scale coach. I'm like, hang on a minute. You're in startup. Very, very different. Yeah. There are 5 stages of business. One is startup. In the startup, this is the get everything going. This is I need leads, I need sales. And pretty much that's all you need to focus on at that point. Obviously, messaging comes into it and all of the other pieces, but that's what I would consider like part of that marketing piece. Your messaging, marketing, sales. And that should be 80% of the time when you're in startup phase. Then you move into operator phase. Operator phase is where you've got your first clients, you've got your proof of concept of your offer, you know that works, but you're still doing everything yourself. You're still in build phase or grow phase because it's still about getting more clients. You can't move into scale phase until you've got yourself to a point where you're financially stable. Scale is about creating the systems and replicating them, bringing team in. It's about making more sales without putting in more time. That's what scale essentially is. You can't do that at startup phase, and you can start at operator phase, but at startup phase, don't start getting your systems into place until you've actually done the thing. You're spending your time on the wrong activities. because until you've done something, you don't know if it's going to work. And I've seen plenty of people trying to get these systems set up before they've actually done them manually. And it's just such a waste of time, because how many times in our life, not just our business, but our entire life, do we think something's going to go one way and then you do it and it actually goes another? Like, that's business, right? That's how it always is. So you have to get it done before you can scale. Scale's just about making more money without adding in more time. And it's the third stage.
So what are some of the signs that a coach is growing versus, but not actually scaling? You might have answered part of that, but a little deeper into that.
Yeah. So a coach would be, so you're talking about the actual phase?
Yeah.
They would be,
yeah. So they think they're scaling, but they're just growing.
yeah. Maybe you haven't really landed on that one offer that's your main offer. Maybe you're still trialing things. It's like, I'll try this and see if it works. I'll try this and see if it works. Maybe it's that you haven't got your simple systems in place. So I think that simplicity scales and complexity fails. But there's this trial and error phase. So at scale, it's about almost like clearing the deck and just going, all right, we've tried all these things. What is just the one thing that we're going to keep in this that brings someone through the pipeline or the funnel or a workflow? If you are not in a position where your revenue feels stable, so if it's like a roller coaster, then that's a growth phase issue. That's not a scale issue. And the roller coaster income generally happens because someone goes all in on marketing, they get some leads, they sign some clients, and then they go into delivery and let the marketing and the sales drop off. And then all of a sudden they're like, uh-oh, no money coming in, need to do more marketing and sales. And we start to see the leads come in, sign some clients, go into delivery. And it's just this, I see it happen all the time. This process, people can be in that process for years. So you need to be really aware. If that's what you're doing, then that you really need to get a marketing system in place, because marketing is the foundation of everything in your business. It's the people say it's the lifeblood. Sales are the lifeblood of your business. But if you don't have marketing, you can't make the sales. So that marketing needs to be built like a conveyor belt in your business. So it's like you've got repeatable revenue coming in, like little people on a little conveyor belt. We know when they're coming. We know how much they're going to spend. We know what their lifetime value is. We know what our income or our revenue is going to be next month. Like, that is when you're starting to get that into place, we're heading into scale.
Yes. And you know what? When I was in real estate, that's the number one thing I saw with people over and over and over was that I have 4 clients and then they do nothing because they're working on getting them through the deal. So when someone comes to you and says, Sam, I've hit 7 figures, what's the first question you ask to clarify whether they're truly ready to scale?
It's far out. I usually ask what their business looks like. So it's within that one question, there's lots of little pieces. Generally, I'm asking what their offer is. I'm asking where their last, 3 months of clients came from. I'm asking what systems they've got in place. What I'm looking at, because they don't normally know, is where they're the bottleneck in their business. I guess that's the general big piece. Where are you the bottleneck in your business? Because wherever those bottlenecks are, you can't scale there. And they're the first places you need to go. So are you the bottleneck in marketing? Are you the bottleneck in sales? Are you the bottleneck in delivery? Because you can't scale past $1 million if you're doing all the delivery. It's just too hard. You'll burn out. Are you the bottleneck with your team? So I see this a lot where people are exceptionally exhausted. It happens usually around the 300K mark a year. It happens way before $1 million. And I'm talking specifically service-based business here, because product-based businesses, the numbers are different. But they get to about this point and they hire someone. So usually a VA or just like one person to help. And then they get frustrated because they're like, that person is sitting there waiting to be told what to do. or they keep coming back because they're saying, how do I do this? Or I need your approval on this, or where do I go to find this? And what the founder or the business owner finds is that all of a sudden, not only are they dealing with their own work, but they're dealing with the pressure of this other person and having to keep them going. And I can talk about that deeper if you'd like me to, because that's a very specific problem. But that's that's a really, really big problem that you need to start scaling. It's probably the biggest spotlight that there's a scale issue.
Yeah, actually, when I had a scaling coach, that was exactly where we got stuck. And how hard it is to let it go. That I swear that the coach, I thought I was going to appear on Broadway in the new Frozen, because every meeting was like, let it go, let it go, let it go.
There's a massive mind shit. Oh my God. Actually, that's probably what it is.
Yeah, it's a shit show.
I was going to say it's a big mindset shift. That was actually really funny.
Yeah, it was. But it is, because, you just like, that's where you find out why you're the bottleneck. And you don't want to be, but at the same time, I remember saying to him over and over and over, I was complaining about the new VA and they don't do it the way I do it. And he was like, is it getting done? Well, yeah. Then why do they have to do it your way?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
My way, damn it.
But what if their way's better? Like, there's so many pieces, right? There's so many pieces to this. I was working with one client who had come out of one business and she was starting the next business. It was only a small pivot, so it was still the same industry. It was just a little pivot. But the reason she'd let one of her businesses go is because she had a team member that made a lot of mistakes, and she just wanted to like close the door on that, because there was some stuff that was following her because of that, and she wanted to sort of shut the door and start again. And I was like, already I could see, like 3 months in, and she was like, because it was just a pivot, it was an industry she was already in, she was growing really quickly. And I said, you need help. She's like, there is no way I'll hire staff again. And we just had one session on reframing. Well, okay, let's talk about a team. It's not staff, it's a team. It's someone that's on the team with you. Think of yourself like an elite, a basketball team, a football team. You can't do it on your own. There needs to be other people, but let's talk about how it can be reframed and dealt with differently. How can you onboard that person? Like, how, actually, even going back, how do you find the right person so that you don't have that problem again? How do you onboard them? What systems are in place? What expectations? What accountability? What KPIs are in place right from the beginning, so that team member really understands this is what we're doing here? And how can you start to understand that you're not handing off tasks and just saying, hey, do this, because of course they're always coming back to you saying, what's next, what's next, what's next? How can you say, this is the big picture, this is the project that we're working on, this is how we know at the end of the project whether we've hit our KPIs, this is how we know if we haven't, and getting really clear on that. And that what that does is empowers the team member to not come back to you, to research it, to know what the KPIs are, and also for you as a business owner to check in. Hey, what's been done this week? Where are we at? So that they're accountable for that project. Just letting them understand. Don't come to me, ask for a question. What's okay with, where are you able to go and find the answers? Where do you not want me to go find the answers? So it's really, really about being exceptionally transparent, but also understanding that the way that you've been doing things in the operator stage, which is just doing the things, doing the tasks, is not going to take you through to scale stage. It just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't at all. I learned that last summer when I was working on it. So you established a service for founders to install something you call the Align Scale Method. What is it? In simple terms.
So in super simple terms, it's a very simple do this, then that. Because what a lot of people do is they have an issue in their business and they see a symptom and they might not necessarily go to the right core problem to solve that symptom. So it's very, very simple. It's getting clear on your messaging and positioning. getting your marketing system in place, having a sales system that converts, having systems and processes and workflows so that everyone knows what they're doing, and bringing in the right team. It's actually that simple. The reason it's in that order is, like I said, you might think, oh, I don't have enough people coming through the door, and you might hire a sales coach to get better at sales. But in actual fact, maybe your messaging's not that great. So it doesn't matter how much you spend on that sales coach or how much time, it's still not going to fix the problem. So you need to go in order and deal with each constraint in order to be able to scale as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And I dealt with someone a while back. You have to be intentional about it too, because when she came in, she didn't have a calendar, and she kept saying, I need more leads. I was like, you don't have a calendar where people can book. Well, I kind of want to just work when I want to work. And I was like, so do you have a job? Is it a
Put that
hobby?
in the calendar.
Put that in the calendar. Exactly. So it was a very odd conversation. So I think you have to be very intentional about what you're doing when you build those systems too. We mentioned that balanced lifestyle. That does not mean that you get to do anything you want whenever you want on it.
No, totally not. And I think to that point, you can't read the label from inside the jar. If you need more sales and you can't figure out why, you probably can't see it because you're in it, or you may not have been there before. So find someone outside the jar that can see the label, that know where you're trying to go, to help you, to say, hey, you need a calendar, and that's okay. The way you build your calendar is only put the hours that you're available and don't put the other hours. Like, it's not that hard. But to that person, it probably didn't make sense because she didn't know it was even available. So get help.
Yeah. So
Was that simple?
So, last question. What do you do when you run across a business where the business is running them? They're not running the business. Because I think that would be a big bottleneck too.
Yeah, that's the second stage. That's operator phase. They feel like the business is running them. They're being pulled from pillar to post. They're unable to take a vacation because they can't let it all go. At that point, you need to take a step back. I had a coach that helped me do this because, again, you can't read the label from inside the jar, but it really is about taking a step back. The very first question to ask yourself is, where are we heading? What is it that I'm trying to build? What is it that I want my life to look like? Because at that point where the business is running you, you're so deep in it that you can't see the what do they say? They can't see the woods for the trees? The forest and the trees?
Yeah.
There. So it's really important to stop, take a step back. What am I trying to build? Because if you're trying to create something, or you've started to create something that doesn't feel really great, you will subconsciously sabotage yourself because you don't grow into pain. You may not even be aware that this is happening to you. So that's where you start. And from there, it's just about one at a time, going through and ticking the boxes. How's our messaging? Are we going to the right client for what we're trying to create? Do we have the right business model? Are we positioned, or are we positioning ourselves in the right place in the marketplace? And then going through, cool, once we've got all those things in place, what's our marketing look like? And it is about being very logical, very systematic, paying attention to your KPIs, because when you're looking at your KPIs or your key performance indicators, it will show you where the gaps are. So it really is about taking a step back and getting exceptionally logical and exceptionally truthful with yourself about where you want to be and where you're heading.
That is so true. I was actually part of a mastermind where the same woman would show up once a month for our call. And it was the same thing. I need to let go. I need to let go. What are the signs? Like, if you're someone who is in that operator phase, what are some of the signs that people would be able to identify that would be like, I need to do something here?
Yep. They may have roller coaster income. We just talked about on this episode, right? Roller coaster income.
Yeah. Yes. We talked about.
Sorry, we did a couple of conversations, and I'm like, which one was the first one and which one's the second one? Yes. So may have roller coaster income. You know that you're the bottleneck. Like, you can feel it, because if you take your hands off the wheel, you stop moving. So you might not be able to take a vacation. You might be canceling dinner with family. You might be canceling plans because you just can't step away. But that would be another thing. And number 3, you're probably noticing things fall through the gaps. So you feel like you've got all the plates on the sticks and you're trying to keep them all spinning and they're coming off. So you might not be following up on leads. You might be forgetting to onboard a client properly, like they're missing what they need. You could be like, there's all sorts of things that you could be missing. Maybe you do have a team member and you feel like you're managing them and it's making your life harder, not easier. Or you feel like you need a team member, but you can't stop for long enough to hire someone, or you don't know exactly what it is that they would take off your plate. So there's some of the things that you would notice, but generally the symptom that you're experiencing is that your revenue has plateaued no matter how hard you work. So if you're at that point, something needs to change, because if your revenue isn't going up, no matter what you're doing, then you're stuck. And it doesn't matter how many more hours you work, nothing's going to change except you're going to burn out. So that's a change.
Yeah. And you guys, I'm telling you, the reason you need a coach during this time period is because you're training, you're busier, your frustration, you're going to go through some significant growing pains when you're doing this. And that my poor coach was the receptacle of, I don't have time for that. Or, I was just whining all the time, but I whine and then I do it. So it's not like I just whine and give up, but that's why you need that coach, is venting, help. How can I do this? I'm not seeing the way. Help me let go. I mean, you're going to go through all of those phases, but you come out the other side better. But you're going to, how long would you say those growing pains last when you work with people too?
Oh my goodness. It's like, how long's a piece of string? It really depends on the person. So the client that I was talking about before, that we talked her into getting a team member rather than having staff, she came out the other side within 3 months. And when I say came out the other side, like for that 3 months, it was like a lot of frustration, exactly like you're talking about, but she got it really quickly. And then there's other people that they grip on so tightly to their old identity that it takes longer. And to that point, this is what I wanted to say, because you were saying it, but I wanted to give it a label. The biggest shift moving from operator stage, like through scale stage, is the identity shift. That is the biggest thing that needs to move, is your identity, because all of the other things are just tactics and strategies and processes and workflows. They're easy once you've taken on the identity of the $1 million business owner, the scale stage business owner.
Yeah, but it is difficult. So I don't want you, I don't like it when coaches come on. Oh, it's easy. Oh, it's not easy. You're growing. And anytime you grow, it's going to be tough. You're going to have some, and you're right, the identity of it all. So you have a free gift for somebody who's interested in looking into this. Can you tell us where to find it?
Sure. So what I have is a quiz, because I talked about the aligned scale stage and getting things in the right order, and people make the mistake of going to the wrong thing, and that slows you down and it costs you money. So if you really want to hit that 7-figure mark, or you want to scale past that 7-figure mark, the fastest way to do it is to figure out where you are now and just what's the next 3 things. Very, very action oriented. So it's a free 2-minute quiz that will identify what that constraint is and give you the next 3 moves, so you can move through it a lot quicker. And just go to Samantha Riley /quiz.
Okay.
Hang on. SamanthaRiley.global/quiz.
Okay. .global. Okay. Samantha, thank you so much for being on the show today. You guys, I hope this helps tremendously, because we do have so many coaches that listen.
Thank you so much.